The Biden Autopen scandal just took an immediate wrong turn. So I just fell down a rabbit hole, which would probably be the biggest scandal in 2025. And I couldn't sleep until I tell you about this. We're talking about a scandal so wild, it makes Watergate look like a parking ticket. 3 people allegedly turned the presidential Autopen into their personal ATM, their personal cash machine. Now there's a whistleblower. Lawyers are scrambling, and the Justice Department is asking questions that should terrify everyone and anyone who's involved or cares about democracy. So here's what happened. You know, Ed Martin, he's the Department of Justice pardon attorney. Basically, the guy whose job it is to make sure presidential pardons aren't completely insane, they're all above board, that they're legal. Well, last Tuesday, he went on Mark Halperin's show called Two-Way Tonight, which is a podcast, and dropped what might be the biggest political bombshell since ever. Martin starts off by saying the Justice Department is now reviewing Biden's last-minute pardon because, get this, it's becoming increasingly clear that he was incapacitated during his presidency. Like, they're not even being subtle about it anymore. The guy who's supposed to be running the country apparently wasn't actually running anything. But here's where it gets absolutely wild. Martin says he wrote letters to the Biden family and others, and then out of nowhere, knock, knock, a senior Democrat whistleblower shows up at his office. Not just any Democrat, mind you. This person was a high-level advisor on Biden's 2020 campaign. Someone with serious inside knowledge. And what this whistleblower told Martin will blow your mind. They said, quote, look, it was 3 people that controlled access, and they were making money off of it, unquote. Making money off presidential pardons using an Autopen. For those of you that don't know, an Autopen is basically a machine that can replicate someone's signature. Presidents use them all the time for routine stuff. You know, they can't physically sign every single document. I myself, when I retired from the Navy, I'm sure many of you retired military, you get a little certificate signed by the president. That's an Autopen, okay? But using it for pardons, that is not routine. Now, Martin couldn't officially name names during the interview, probably because, you know, lawyers, ongoing investigations, and all that fun stuff. But the 3 alleged gatekeepers, Ron Klain, which is Biden's chief of staff, Anita Dunn, who Martin specifically called a Mao lover, meaning Chinese Communist Party, and senior White House advisor Bob Bauer, Biden's longtime attorney. Let me just pause here for a second. Ron Klain was literally the person closest to Biden in terms of day-to-day operations. Anita Dunn was one of Biden's most trusted advisors, someone who's been with him for years, back to whenever he was not insane, and Bob Bauer. He's the guy who's supposed to make sure everything the president does is legal. He also represented Hunter. These weren't random staffers. They were the inner circle. These people, they controlled who got to see Biden. They're the gatekeepers. They got to control what documents he signed, and apparently, if the whistleblower is right, who got pardoned. Martin also mentioned former Biden counsel Steve Ricchetti and Jill Biden were the lead characters in the whole operation. Now, we knew Dr. Jill was going to be involved. She knows when Joe's up, pooping his pants, going to the bathroom, falling down. She knows all this, okay? Think about it a little further. The first lady. I mean, that is the inner sanctuary. That's sleeping next to the guy. Here's the kicker. Martin says a couple of people have already lawyered up. You know what that means? Well, when someone lawyers up after immediately getting accused, they're probably guilty, or they're at least worried about their innocence. They're doing it because they're scared. Here's what really keeps me up at night about this whole story. This isn't just about corruption or even that Joe was incapacitated. This is about something much scarier. The complete breakdown of our constitutional system by 3, 4, 5 people, up to and including the First Lady. Presidential pardons aren't just paperwork. They're one of the most powerful tools in our entire government. The president can literally override the entire justice system with a signature, with the stroke of a pen. The founders gave presidents this power because they trusted that whoever held the office would use it responsibly, with the weight of history and justice on their shoulders. But what if presidents didn't actually use the pardons? What if it was one of their staffers? What if it's these 3 unelected gatekeepers using a machine to replicate his signature while he's where? On the beach in Delaware, Puerto Rico, the Bahamas? And what if they're making money off of this? Think about everyone who got last-minute Biden pardons. Where was Joe, and were they legitimate? Did someone pay Ron Klain, Anita Dunn, or Bob Bauer for access to that Autopen? Did families desperate to keep their loved ones out of prison get shaken down by the people who are supposed to be public servants? Martin called these pardons unprecedented, and he's not wrong. The sheer volume, you remember, it was like 48 hours. Everything from Cheney to Fauci to Schiff, the whole J6 committee, they all got pardons. None of this followed normal patterns, and now we know why. Here's the twist that makes the story even crazier. This whistleblower didn't come forward because they suddenly grew a conscience. They came forward because they're scared. Think about it. This person was a high-level advisor on Biden's 2020 campaign. They were part of the machine that got Biden elected. They had everything to lose by coming forward and nothing to gain except what? A clear conscience? Protection from whatever's coming next? What kind of deals do you think were brokered with this guy? No, I think this whistleblower knows something else, something bigger. Maybe they know that the Autopen scheme is about to explode in ways we can't even imagine yet. Maybe they know there are recordings, documents, financial records. Maybe they know that when this thing really breaks open, anyone connected is going down and being held for treason. Here's what's really terrifying. If Martin is right, even down to a percentage about Biden being incapacitated, who was running the country the past 4 years? Was it these 3 gatekeepers? Was it Jill? Was it some shadow cabinet that we know nothing about? Let's be honest. Running an Autopen scam for pardons isn't something you just stumble into. This requires planning, coordination, and the confidence that you'll never get caught. The kind of confidence you only have when you know you are the ones really in charge. I'm sitting here thinking about how we get to this point. How do we end up with a system where 3 unelected people could potentially turn presidential pardons into profit, into an absolute ATM machine? The Justice Department is now reviewing this, and that means we might actually get some answers. I'll be honest with you. I'm not holding my breath. We've seen too many scandals get buried, too many investigations go nowhere, too many whistleblowers disappear, right? Little killer reaction here. But this feels different. When senior Democrats are showing up at the DOJ's pardon attorney office with these kind of allegations, it just feels different. And I feel like when we put a little squeeze on a couple of these people, they are going to squeal like a pig. Keep your eyes on this story, because if Ed Martin is that much right, if this whistleblower is telling the truth to save their own skin, if those 3 gatekeepers really did what they're accused of doing, then we're about to witness the biggest political scandal in American history. Unlike other scandals, this one is going to rip the Democrat Party apart. Watergate will look like nothing. Sweet dreams, everybody. You can sleep easy tonight knowing this gets investigated. I'm the Vet Biker. Hit the like and subscribe on your way out the door. Really appreciate you. Take care. The Biden Autopen scandal has legs. Real long, hairy ones that all the kids in the pool like to rub. Ain't that right, Joe?